I'm just going to start.
Hello.
I'll start.
You start.
Hi James. So could you tell us how have you reacted to people comparing Westworld as the new Game of Thrones, hopefully? Like in success-wise or popularity?
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people are drawing that comparison. I can see why. I think Game of Thrones is coming to its closure, and Westworld is just starting up. And obviously, we all know what a massive hit Game of Thrones was, and we all hope that'll be the same for Westworld, and we're on a good trajectory for that. As far as shows are concerned, it's just the style. They are, relatively different. They're both science fiction, I guess, or sci-fi fantasy. But I guess I don't think too much about comparing. I don't think about becoming the successor to Game of Thrones necessarily. I just, we want to do a good show and a great product and do our own thing. And I think people will, as it's already started, I think people are going to show up and get behind our ideas and our concept. And so I guess I don't really think about it too much. I know a lot of people are thinking, I don't know why, I just think it's going to take over for Game of Thrones. I just feel like if there's any unnecessary pressure, I like to just sort of eliminate it. And I'm a big fan of Game of Thrones, and it's a testament to HBO's extremely high quality programming, and hopefully Westworld qualifies right up there with it.
Westworld prides itself on delivering twists. How much information are the actors given on their character storyline and that of others? The assumption is there's not a lot. Yeah. So how to prepare yourself in delivering a performance with the limited knowledge that you have?
Well, it's a good assumption because we rarely had much more information than the audience has, with the exception of, obviously we would get the script to shoot the script, and sometimes we would get it just a few days before. So we didn't know from the showrunners where our character arcs were going through the season. And so it was kind of a fun mystery for us as well. And that said, if we had any questions, Jonah and Lisa would all answer them, and sometimes vaguely, and sometimes with great detail, because they wanted us to know just enough to serve the story for where we were. But I didn't really have any strong desire to know the end game of the first season at all. I wanted to go along filming like I was an audience member. Like I wanted the mysteries to reveal themselves in their own time, and I think that that's definitely one of the backbones of the show. All the mysteries that are lingering, and we're starting to just now kind of lay our cards down. And I encourage people to let the show reveal what it wants to reveal to you in its own time. But I had no problem not knowing everything that I knew everything I needed to know, I guess, is what I wanted to say.
So your character Teddy dies a lot in the series, and did you devise any ways of how he was going to die more creatively?
Well, Jonah gets very specific about how he wants things to happen, and there's nothing that happens in the show that's not there without a purpose. Everything is very specific. So the first time you see the Man in Black shoot me in the first episode, I fall to my knees and I keel over to my right. And that happens a few more times. Not always the same kind of to the knees and fall over, but it's I put all my trust in the showrunners on this. It's the caliber of people working on this show is truly remarkable. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to be a part of it. So I just follow Jonah's lead. And Teddy does die a lot. But I will say without giving too much away, he's not going to always be target practice.
One of the most beautiful scenes from the first episode is you and Evan riding on horseback.
Right.
Through this the background of Westworld. It's very beautiful, kind of like the old school Western film.
Yeah.
How was it filming that scene and finally seeing it on the screen?
Well, I keep saying that my favorite thing about being an actor is to put on all these different costumes, and by that I mean not literally costumes, but play all these different types of characters, to step foot in all these different types of fantastical worlds and exist in it. And I've been a fan of cinema for a long time, and westerns were something that I always loved as well. So to be riding a horse, just outside of Arches National Park in Utah, chasing the fair maiden, with these beautiful buttes in the background, feeling like you're in a John Ford film, it just adds a tremendous scope to the show. And it had a dreamlike quality to it. Even for me, just being there on set, it was really a special experience, I guess. And I think that for the audience to see how vast, it is. We shot a couple of weeks out in Utah for some of those big shots, and it adds so much to the show, and it enriches the show. If that's a word, enriches the show. So yeah, that was. Hopefully, we'll get to do a lot more of that in season 2.
So how did, I'm sorry.
So does that mean that you will appear in season 2?
Well, no, I didn't give away anything. I think they just announced that they've been picked up for a season 2. So I said we collectively as a whole, as a show. So yeah, I wouldn't even be able to speculate on season 2 at this point because, like I said, we know nothing at this point. And we would get scripts just a few days before, but under the assumption that HBO has in fact picked the show up for a second season, hopefully the audience will get to see, all of us out there running around on horses in Utah a lot more.
So if you do get into season 2, so what do you hope that your character can do in season 2? How it will develop?
Well, that's a tough question to answer without giving away too much, but because it would be on the assumption the assumption would have to be made based on how we end this season. So, but if you want to speak hypothetically, we've watched Dolores's evolution. We've watched Tandy's, amazing awakening, if you want to call it that. And I think what you're slowly starting to see is all the hosts, these reveries start to seep into their consciousness, and they're starting to remember. And so I think I would love to see that continue. Sorry to be vague, but.
So there's a dreamlike quality to the show. What are some of the most bizarre dreams that you've had?
That I've had?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. Boy, I can't really remember them. The ones that are really twisted, I try to forget. Yeah, I can't really think of one specifically. I had a dream last night, and Hugh Jackman was in it for some reason. I can't remember the context, but it wasn't anything nefarious. It was, but I think I was helping him build a house or something. Really strange. Anyway, dreams are just, they're crazy. I can't really remember anything specifically, but shooting this show was, like you said, it was, and like I said, it had a dreamlike quality to it. It was, I've never done anything like this as an actor. You're playing AI, you're playing essentially a robot. But we're approaching these characters in a very human-like way. They should be indistinguishable from humans, and so. But then Jonah would come in and say, "Okay, that's great as you being human. Now I want you to do a take where you pause a little longer to let the programming catch up with you, and then you do this." So he's very specific. I mean, he's the master puppeteer of all of us, and it was just our guide. We all, as a cast, kind of held hands and dove in all at once. None of us have ever done this before. So, but our approach should be, hey, we're actually more human than some of the humans are in this show. We have more virtue, more goodness, more nobility, loyalty, and more of a moral code than some of the humans do. I hope I answered your question.
So Westworld it sets up itself as an amusement park where you can do whatever you want. You can be a hero, you can be a villain. So a lot of this technology is sort of being worked on right now, not to the extent of Westworld. But how do you think the show will affect how people view an amusement park like this if it ever comes true?
Well, I think it speaks to where we are, or at least the direction we're heading with gaming. We're starting to now see fully immersive virtual reality gaming, and that's a real thing that's happening, and it's going to continue to evolve. And we have to have the next best thing, and I think it's not out of the question that this will someday, something like Westworld will exist. My concern is whether or not it's good for us. I have kids, and some of them do play video games, and we have to monitor that. But you don't want to desensitize yourself, or more importantly, your children, to the effects of this sort of virtual gaming. I think one of the things about Ed Harris's characters that you see is that he appears to be a man who the thrill is, not as much there as it was when he first started coming to the park, and he wants to kind of up the ante, I guess. So I think that you see that, like you start to become numb to these sorts of things. But there's a great line from Jurassic Park, also Michael Crichton, where Jeff Goldblum says, your scientists spent so much time wondering whether or not they could, they never stopped to think whether they should. And I just hope there's a lot smarter people out there that know the real ramifications of progressing with artificial intelligence and all that. And I don't really know how that all manifests itself, but there are some smart people out there that are actually a little worried. And so I hope that some good discipline is taken from the creators to make sure that we don't become obsolete.
Talking about Jurassic Park and Westworld, amusement parks in general, did you have any kind of fantasies of amusement parks growing up as a child?
Sorry.
Did you have a fantasy of an fantasy amusement park?
Fantasy amusement park.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know really. For me, it was always places I actually wanted to go that I knew about. I mean, when I was a kid, it was the idea of this magical, whatever you want to call them, coming to your bedroom and flying you off to Neverland, or being able to wake up out of sleep and fly to some crazy island with pirates and mermaids. That was kind of interesting. And then we had the real ones like Disneyland, and that was always something very magical when you're a kid. And but I don't know that there was one specifically. I was more into, boy, it'd be really cool to have magic powers or superhero powers, things like that. But there wasn't never some utopian, dreamland amusement park that I thought of. That I don't know. I guess my theme park was Six Flags. I would actually go and just ride roller coasters. But no, I never really thought about that. There was a place like Westworld that. But now you got me thinking. Now I wonder what that would be for me as an adult. I'll come back to that question maybe.
If you could put yourself within that setting, if you created a theme park, would you want to be a white hat or a black hat?
If me as James went to Westworld, I'd probably like to try both. I mean, my thing is, if you're in the park, you might as well do it all, right? I don't necessarily know that I derive any sort of pleasure from some of the black hat stuff that goes on there. I believe it says more about yourself and less about necessarily what you're doing to this other robot or creation. I think it just, I would want to go with the people in my life that I feel like I know really well, my friends, and watch how they behave. Because I think the one thing about Westworld is you can be whoever you want to be. There are no consequences, there's no rules. And I think if you take humans out of that sort of, that societal constraint of civility and living on Earth altogether in a civil way, and you can do whatever you want, I think we're going to dive into some of our most primal instincts, and maybe some of them might be a bit ugly. Well, it's the show, you see in the show, some of the guests, what their behavior is like. But I would want to see how my friends reveal their true character. And I'm like, ooh, I thought I knew you, but you're much darker than that. Yeah, maybe we can't be friends anymore.
So would you like to talk about the scene you're with Anthony Hopkins? Because you're clearly without any clothes.
Well, I find it's more effective if I actually act it out like I did in the show. I'm kidding. That didn't really scare you guys. Yeah, that was, talk about surreal, dreamlike. What am I doing for a living? This is crazy. Yeah, I had about a 2 or 3 page scene with Anthony Hopkins where I'm completely nude and he's basically uploading a new narrative for me. and you get to work opposite one of our greatest thespians of our time, and you get to sit there, in your birthday suit and completely nude. So there's part of me that was nervous about that, and there's part of me that absolutely loved that, because for me, sometimes the more bizarre it gets in a film or a TV show, it's more interesting. I don't know. It's representative of the courage and the bravery that the show takes with presenting themes and philosophies, and so it was very surreal. And he was he's obviously a consummate pro, so he would kind of tell jokes and make me laugh in between takes when they rushed over my robe to cover myself. He would launch into Marlon Brando impersonations and tell me about his art and the symphonies that he writes, and fascinating man. Really just loves being an actor, and can turn it on like that. Just like in between, he'll make jokes and tell stories, and they'll say action. He'll just be, one of the scariest people you can ever watch. But just there's just so much going on with him. But anyway, so yeah, that was fun. Actually, I ended up enjoying that.
So are we going to see you in the Enchanted sequel? That's what everyone's wondering.
Well, I've already probably, I don't know. We'll see. I'd love to. But I think it's still, much like season 2 of Westworld, it's still very, very early, and so we don't really know what's going to be happening. But I had a lot of fun on that movie, and would love to. Well, part of me would love to put that suit back on, because it was a pain in the ass to wear that thing. But yeah, I think it was, when you do something that, when the movie gods are smiling on you and everything works, and the talent is there, and the story is there, and the music is there, and the director knows what he's doing, and you do something really creative and unique and special, you just want to keep doing that. It's rare that all those things line up and the formula works. So I was kind of bummed after we did that they didn't immediately announce another one then. But it's been, almost 10 years, 9 years, something, since first one. So better late than never, I guess, because I would love to go in and be a part of it. But those negotiations and all that stuff haven't really started yet. But I hopefully I get to be a part of it.
Another 3 minutes. This show is based off an older movie from the 1970s. Have you ever watched previous Westworld before?
I did. I saw the film. I hadn't seen it until I booked this role. I knew of it, and I'd heard about it. So it was fun to... Jonah, our showrunner, said, go watch it. He said, but just know that you don't have to come back and say, who's playing the Richard Benjamin role? Who's playing the... we're taking the concept, and we're making it our own... we're making it our own thing. And we're going to take it to much darker, deeper levels, and we've taken the audience down pretty far down the rabbit hole already. So I think that's the best way to remake something, is to take a concept that was great, that maybe didn't reach its full potential. And that's not a slam on the movie. The movie's a great film, but in 2 hours you only have so much you can do. So we are able to take a much more novelistic approach to the show on HBO, because it affords you 10 episodes and potentially however many years of seasons doing it to tell all the stories you want to tell with as big a cast as you want. So it's a great, we've been afforded a great latitude for a nice playground for the potential themes that we can discuss down the line. So I watched the original and it was great. I mean, Yul Brynner's fantastic. He's one of the scariest villains in cinema history, and it was really the original Terminator, if you think about it.
The search of superhero films are the trend. Do you have any plans or hopes of returning to that genre?
Yeah, I wouldn't be against it at all. XMen was a really special thing for me to be a part of, and we got to be very close as a family over the course of 9 years for me. About six years for me. It was very, very cool to be a part of, and I would not be opposed to doing that again. Those are great great jobs and a childhood fantasy come true. You know, obviously very popular. I didn't think it would go on this long. I mean, we're still infatuated with you know, all the Marvel and DC characters, and I think that it's a testament to the depth of the writing from these comic books over the course of 50 years, 60 years. That there's so many sagas and storylines and, you know, different versions of the comics. So there's the material is so rich, and I'd love to find something else to do. You know, if you're allowed to do that, if you're allowed to play one character and then branch off and play another character. Some people, I think Ryan Reynolds has done it, and who else? I don't know, I'm blanking now, but yeah, that'd be fun. They're always great movies to be a part of.
Is there any particular character you want to play, superhero, besides the Cyclops?
When I was a kid, I always thought I'd be a good Spider-Man because I always thought I was really skinny, and I was like, you know, I'd like to climb things. But that role's been taken, and I'm probably a little long in the tooth for it now. I don't know. I know there were a lot of fans out there at one point saying that I would make a good Hal Jordan. I'm trying to think of other guys that. Yeah, I will be honest. My knowledge of all the characters that are out there is relatively limited. I'm usually like right around the main ones that have all been. We've already seen the films and the people who have played the characters. But if you know one, you know, let me know. I'll go after it.
Spider-Man is good.
Well, but we already have Toby and we have Anthony. I'm sorry, Andrew Garfield, and there's a new one now too, right? Another guy. Yeah. I can maybe play Spider-Man's. I'll play Spider-Man in like when he's like 50. And I'll teach the young Spider-Man. But I don't have to jump around so much.
So you visit Asia, maybe it's a new world for you, and something interesting?
Oh yeah, it's a wonderful place. You know, I've never been to this side of the world really. My only other time to Asia has been to Tokyo, and that was just for a couple of days. But never been to Singapore, and it's really been a remarkable experience so far. I'm eating my way through this country, and I've never had the most amazing food in my life. It's really, really, really great. The experience has been, the people have been so warm and inviting and welcoming. There's a great sense of pride that I see that everyone has here, and it's, you know, I wish it's a little more of that for back where I'm from. So it's really, it's been a really special experience, and I'm learning about all the things I need to try, some of which scare me more than others. Like, was it durian? And then I had some amazing chicken rice yesterday, and from one of these authentic spots, and looking forward to having some laksa and all. Yeah, so it's I'm taking a full like culinary approach to being here, and I've eaten more than I needed to. But it's a wonderful place, and it's nice to be able to come here and promote something that you are very proud of, and also share it with all you people. And it's just this is the fun part. The work's been done, and now it's exciting to get out and talk about it and actually experience your culture.
Thank you, guys.
Okay.